Hello! We're excited to present this comprehensive episode dedicated to environmental awareness and sustainable living practices for intermediate English learners who want to engage with one of today's most critical global issues.
Welcome to the Artificial Fluency Podcast. I'm Dr. Sarah Martinez, an environmental scientist, and together with my colleague James Thompson, we'll explore climate change, sustainability, and eco-friendly lifestyle choices while developing your intermediate English skills through meaningful environmental discourse.
I'm James Thompson, and I work as a sustainability consultant. Today's episode addresses environmental challenges that affect everyone on our planet, while providing essential vocabulary and communication strategies for discussing these urgent issues in both personal and professional contexts.
This hour-long discussion combines scientific accuracy with practical solutions, enabling listeners to understand complex environmental concepts while developing the language skills necessary for informed participation in environmental conversations and decision-making processes.
Environmental awareness has become increasingly critical as scientific evidence continues to demonstrate the profound impact of human activities on our planet's climate systems, biodiversity, and natural resources that sustain all life on Earth.
Climate change represents perhaps the most significant challenge of our time, requiring immediate global action and individual responsibility to reduce greenhouse gas emissions while adapting to environmental changes that are already occurring across diverse ecosystems worldwide.
Today's conversation will examine both the scientific foundations of environmental issues and practical solutions that individuals, communities, and organizations can implement to create positive environmental impact while building sustainable lifestyles for future generations.
Understanding environmental science enables informed decision-making about personal choices, political participation, and professional practices that either contribute to environmental problems or support sustainable solutions for our shared planetary future.
Sarah, let's begin by discussing the fundamental scientific concepts that explain climate change and environmental degradation. Many people hear these terms frequently, but may not fully understand the underlying mechanisms driving these global challenges.
Absolutely, James. Climate change results primarily from increased concentrations of greenhouse gases in our atmosphere, particularly carbon dioxide from burning fossil fuels, methane from agriculture and waste management, and nitrous oxide from industrial processes and fertilizer use.
Could you explain how the greenhouse effect actually works? I think many people understand it's important, but the scientific mechanism behind global warming can be quite complex for non-scientists to grasp fully.
The greenhouse effect involves solar radiation entering Earth's atmosphere and warming the planet's surface. Normally, some of this heat radiates back into space, but greenhouse gases trap this thermal energy, causing atmospheric temperatures to rise gradually over time.
That accumulation of heat energy has far-reaching consequences beyond just higher temperatures, doesn't it? We're seeing impacts on weather patterns, ocean systems, and ecosystem stability across the globe.
Exactly. Rising temperatures trigger cascading effects, including melting ice caps, rising sea levels, more frequent extreme weather events, shifting precipitation patterns, and disruption of seasonal cycles that many species depend on for survival and reproduction.
The interconnectedness of these environmental systems means that changes in one area can have unpredictable effects elsewhere. For example, Arctic ice melt affects ocean currents that influence weather patterns thousands of miles away.
Climate systems operate as complex networks where small changes can trigger significant consequences through feedback loops. Understanding these connections helps explain why environmental protection requires comprehensive, coordinated approaches rather than isolated interventions. James, sustainable living practices offer practical ways for individuals to reduce their environmental impact while often saving money and improving quality of life. What areas do you typically recommend people focus on first?
Energy consumption represents one of the most impactful areas for individual action. Simple changes like switching to LED lighting, improving home insulation, and adjusting thermostat settings can significantly reduce both energy bills and carbon emissions.
Transportation choices also provide substantial opportunities for environmental impact reduction. Walking, cycling, using public transportation, or choosing electric vehicles can dramatically decrease personal carbon footprints while often improving physical health and reducing transportation costs.
Food choices represent another powerful area for sustainable living. Reducing meat consumption, choosing locally produced foods, minimizing food waste, and growing some vegetables at home can significantly reduce environmental impact while supporting healthier diets.
Water conservation deserves attention as well, particularly in regions experiencing drought or water scarcity. Simple measures like fixing leaks, installing low-flow fixtures, and collecting rainwater for gardening can substantially reduce household water consumption.
Waste reduction through the reduce, reuse, recycle hierarchy helps minimize the environmental impact of consumption, while often saving money. Buying fewer items, repurposing materials creatively, and properly recycling materials prevents unnecessary resource extraction and pollution.
Consumer choices send powerful market signals to businesses about environmental priorities. Supporting companies with strong environmental practices and avoiding products with excessive packaging or harmful environmental impacts encourages broader corporate sustainability adoption.
The cumulative effect of individual actions, when adopted by millions of people, can drive significant environmental improvement, while demonstrating public support for policy changes that address environmental challenges at larger scales.
Sarah, renewable energy technologies have advanced dramatically over the past decade. Could you explain the current state of solar, wind, and other clean energy sources, and how they're transforming our energy systems?
Renewable energy costs have plummeted, making clean energy increasingly competitive with fossil fuels across many markets. Solar panel efficiency continues improving, while installation costs decrease, enabling widespread adoption for both residential and commercial applications.
Wind energy has also experienced remarkable growth, with offshore wind farms generating substantial electricity in many coastal regions. The technology has matured significantly, providing reliable power generation with minimal environmental impact compared to fossil fuel alternatives.
Battery storage technology advancement addresses the intermittency challenges associated with renewable energy sources. Improved energy storage enables solar and wind power to provide consistent electricity even when the sun isn't shining or wind isn't blowing.
Hydroelectric power continues providing clean energy in appropriate geographic locations, though environmental concerns about ecosystem disruption require careful consideration of dam placement and design to minimize negative impacts on river systems and wildlife.
Geothermal energy offers consistent, reliable power generation in regions with appropriate geological conditions. This technology provides both electricity generation and direct heating applications with minimal environmental impact and high reliability.
The transition to renewable energy creates economic opportunities through job creation in manufacturing, installation, and maintenance of clean energy systems, while reducing dependence on volatile fossil fuel markets and improving energy security.
Government policies, including tax incentives, renewable energy standards, and carbon pricing mechanisms, accelerate clean energy adoption while creating market conditions that favor sustainable energy development over fossil fuel dependence.
James, urban planning and sustainable cities represent crucial areas for environmental progress. How are cities implementing green infrastructure and sustainable development practices to reduce their environmental impact?
Green building standards like LEED certification encourage energy-efficient construction, sustainable materials usage, and water conservation in new developments, while retrofitting existing buildings improves environmental performance of urban infrastructure.
Urban transportation systems increasingly emphasize public transit, cycling infrastructure, and pedestrian-friendly design that reduces automobile dependence while improving air quality and promoting healthier, more active lifestyles for city residents.
Green spaces, including parks, community gardens, and urban forests, provide multiple environmental benefits, including air purification, stormwater management, biodiversity habitat, and temperature regulation that make cities more livable and resilient.
Waste management innovations in cities include composting programs, improved recycling systems, and waste-to-energy facilities that reduce landfill dependence while generating renewable energy from organic waste materials.
Smart city technologies optimize resource usage through intelligent traffic management, energy-efficient lighting systems. Smart city technologies optimize resource usage through intelligent traffic management, energy-efficient lighting systems, and data-driven infrastructure management that reduces environmental impact while improving service delivery to residents.
Water management systems in sustainable cities include rainwater harvesting, graywater recycling, and permeable surfaces that reduce stormwater runoff while conserving water resources and preventing flooding during extreme weather events.
Community engagement programs educate residents about sustainable practices while encouraging participation in environmental initiatives that create collective impact beyond what individuals can achieve independently.
Mixed-use development reduces transportation needs by integrating residential, commercial, and office spaces within walkable neighborhoods that support sustainable lifestyles while building stronger community connections.
Sarah, biodiversity loss represents another critical environmental challenge that often receives less attention than climate change. Could you explain why biodiversity matters and what's driving the current extinction crisis?
Biodiversity encompasses the variety of life on Earth, including species diversity, genetic diversity within species, and ecosystem diversity. This biological variety provides essential services, including pollination, water purification, soil formation, and climate regulation that support human civilization.
The current rate of species extinction exceeds natural background rates by hundreds or thousands of times, primarily due to habitat destruction, pollution, climate change, invasive species, and overexploitation of natural resources.
Habitat fragmentation from urban development, agriculture expansion, and infrastructure construction isolates wildlife populations, making them more vulnerable to environmental changes and reducing genetic diversity necessary for species adaptation and survival.
Pollution affects biodiversity through multiple pathways, including water contamination that kills aquatic species, air pollution that damages plant health, and plastic pollution that harms marine animals through ingestion and entanglement.
Mixed-use development reduces transportation needs by integrating residential, commercial, and office spaces within walkable neighborhoods that support sustainable lifestyles while building stronger community connections.
Sarah, biodiversity loss represents another critical environmental challenge that often receives less attention than climate change. Could you explain why biodiversity matters and what's driving the current extinction crisis?
Biodiversity encompasses the variety of life on Earth, including species diversity, genetic diversity within species, and ecosystem diversity. This biological variety provides essential services including pollination, water purification, soil formation, and climate regulation that support human civilization.
The current rate of species extinction exceeds natural background rates by hundreds or thousands of times, primarily due to habitat destruction, pollution, climate change, invasive species, and overexploitation of natural resources.
Habitat fragmentation from urban development, agriculture expansion, and infrastructure construction isolates wildlife populations, making them more vulnerable to environmental changes and reducing genetic diversity necessary for species adaptation and survival.
Pollution affects biodiversity through multiple pathways, including water contamination that kills aquatic species, air pollution that damages plant health, and plastic pollution that harms marine animals through ingestion and entanglement.
Climate change shifts temperature and precipitation patterns faster than many species can adapt, forcing wildlife to migrate to new habitats or face extinction. These changes particularly affect specialized species with narrow habitat requirements.
Conservation efforts focus on protecting remaining wild habitats, restoring degraded ecosystems, controlling invasive species, and reducing human pressures on natural systems through sustainable resource management practices.
Protected areas, including national parks, nature reserves, and marine sanctuaries, provide safe havens for wildlife while supporting ecosystem research and environmental education that builds public appreciation for biodiversity conservation.
Citizen science projects engage the public in biodiversity monitoring while contributing valuable data for conservation research and management decisions that protect endangered species and threatened ecosystems.
James, corporate sustainability has become increasingly important as businesses recognize their environmental responsibilities and the business benefits of sustainable practices.
What trends are you seeing in corporate environmental initiatives?
Many companies now set science-based targets for carbon emissions reduction, aligning their climate goals with the levels necessary to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius as outlined in international climate agreements.
Circular economy principles guide business model innovation toward designing out waste, keeping products and materials in use, and regenerating natural systems rather than following traditional, linear take, make, dispose approaches.
Supply chain sustainability involves evaluating and improving environmental practices throughout product life cycles, from raw material extraction through manufacturing, distribution, use, and end-of-life management.
Environmental reporting and transparency enable stakeholders to assess corporate environmental performance while creating accountability for sustainability commitments and progress toward environmental goals.
Green financing includes sustainability-linked loans, green bonds, and environmental criteria in investment decisions that direct capital toward environmentally beneficial projects while divesting from harmful activities.
Employee engagement in sustainability initiatives creates internal champions for environmental practices while building corporate culture that values environmental responsibility and innovation in sustainable solutions.
Product innovation focuses on developing goods and services with reduced environmental impact throughout their life cycles, from energy-efficient technologies to biodegradable materials and reusable designs.
Stakeholder collaboration brings together businesses, governments, NGOs, and communities to address environmental challenges that require coordinated action beyond what any single organization can achieve independently.
Sarah, environmental policy and governance play crucial roles in addressing global environmental challenges. How do international agreements, national policies, and local regulations work together to protect environmental systems?
The Paris Climate Agreement represents the most significant international effort to coordinate global climate action, with countries setting nationally determined contributions to reduce greenhouse gas emissions while adapting to climate change impacts.
National environmental policies include regulations on air and water quality, protected area designation, renewable energy standards, and carbon pricing mechanisms that create frameworks for environmental protection and sustainable development.
Local governments often lead environmental innovation through policies like plastic bag bans, composting requirements, green building codes, and urban forest protection that demonstrate effective environmental management at community scales.
Environmental justice considerations ensure that pollution burdens and environmental benefits are distributed fairly across different communities, addressing historical inequities in environmental policy implementation and enforcement.
International trade agreements increasingly include environmental provisions that prevent countries from lowering environmental standards to gain competitive advantages while promoting global adoption of sustainable practices.
Carbon pricing mechanisms, including carbon taxes and cap-and-trade systems, create economic incentives for emissions reduction while generating revenue for climate adaptation and clean energy investments.
Environmental impact assessments require evaluation of potential environmental consequences before approving major development projects, ensuring that environmental considerations are integrated into planning and decision-making processes.
Public participation in environmental policy development ensures that diverse perspectives and local knowledge inform environmental management decisions while building public support for environmental protection measures.
James, environmental education and awareness building are essential for creating the informed citizenry necessary to address environmental challenges. How can we effectively communicate environmental science and inspire environmental action?
Environmental education should combine scientific accuracy with emotional connection, helping people understand both the factual basis of environmental issues and their personal stake in environmental protection and sustainable living.
Storytelling approaches make complex environmental concepts more accessible by connecting scientific information to human experiences, local examples, and concrete consequences that people can understand and relate to personally.
Hands-on learning experiences, including nature walks, gardening projects, energy audits, and citizen science participation, engage multiple senses while building practical knowledge and emotional connections to environmental issues.
Positive messaging that emphasizes solutions, success stories, and individual agency encourages environmental action, rather than creating despair or helplessness that can lead to disengagement from environmental issues.
Community-based education programs address local environmental challenges while building local capacity for environmental monitoring, problem-solving, and advocacy that creates lasting environmental improvements.
Media literacy helps people evaluate environmental information critically, distinguishing between credible scientific sources and misinformation, while understanding how different interests might influence environmental messaging.
Intergenerational learning brings together different age groups to share environmental knowledge, experiences, and perspectives, while building mutual understanding and collaborative approaches to environmental challenges.
Cultural sensitivity ensures that environmental education respects diverse values, traditions, and ways of life, while finding common ground for environmental protection that transcends cultural differences.
Sarah, technology and innovation offer promising solutions for environmental challenges, but they also raise questions about unintended consequences and technological fixes versus systemic change. How do we evaluate environmental technologies responsibly?
Life cycle assessment helps evaluate the total environmental impact of technologies from raw material extraction through manufacturing, use, and disposal, ensuring that solutions don't simply shift environmental problems to different stages or locations.
Emerging technologies like carbon capture and storage, advanced nuclear power, and geoengineering proposals require careful evaluation of potential benefits, risks, and ethical implications before widespread deployment.
Biomimicry approaches seek technological solutions inspired by natural systems that have evolved efficient and sustainable approaches to challenges like energy conversion, material construction, and waste processing.
Precision agriculture technologies, including GPS-guided equipment, soil sensors, and drone monitoring, enable more efficient resource use while reducing environmental impacts from fertilizer and pesticide applications.
Artificial intelligence applications in environmental management include optimizing energy systems, predicting environmental changes, and analyzing complex environmental data to improve decision-making and resource allocation.
However, technological solutions must complement rather than replace fundamental changes in consumption patterns, energy systems, and economic structures that drive environmental degradation.
Democratic participation in technology assessment ensures that communities affected by environmental technologies have input into development and deployment decisions that affect their health and environment.
Precautionary principles suggest careful evaluation and gradual implementation of new environmental technologies while monitoring for unintended consequences that might emerge over time.
James, individual environmental action sometimes feels overwhelming given the scale of global environmental challenges. How can people maintain motivation and effectiveness in their personal environmental efforts?
Starting with manageable changes builds confidence and habits that enable progressively greater environmental action over time. Small successes create momentum for larger lifestyle changes and sustained environmental engagement.
Community involvement amplifies individual impact while providing social support, shared learning, and collective action opportunities that achieve environmental improvements beyond what individuals can accomplish alone.
Tracking environmental impact through carbon footprint calculators, energy monitoring, or waste measurement provides concrete feedback about the effectiveness of environmental actions while identifying areas for improvement.
Connecting environmental action to personal values, health benefits, and cost savings creates multiple motivations for sustainable living that persist even when environmental concern fluctuates.
Learning continuously about environmental issues, solutions, and success stories maintains engagement while building knowledge that enables more effective environmental action and advocacy.
Advocating for systemic change through voting, political participation, and consumer choices addresses structural barriers to environmental protection that limit the effectiveness of individual action alone.
Celebrating environmental achievements and recognizing progress builds positive associations with environmental action while maintaining optimism necessary for sustained engagement with challenging environmental issues.
Teaching others and sharing environmental knowledge multiplies individual impact while building community capacity for environmental protection and sustainable living practices.
Sarah, looking toward the future, what developments in environmental science, technology, and policy give you the most hope for addressing global environmental challenges effectively?
Renewable energy cost reductions and rapid deployment worldwide demonstrate that clean energy transition is not only possible, but economically advantageous, creating momentum for accelerated decarbonization across all sectors.
Young people's environmental activism and engagement provide tremendous hope for sustained political pressure and innovative solutions that address environmental challenges with urgency and creativity.
Scientific advances in understanding environmental systems enable more precise and effective interventions, while monitoring technologies provide real-time feedback about environmental conditions and improvement efforts.
Business innovation in sustainable technologies, circular economy practices, and environmental services creates economic incentives for environmental protection, while demonstrating that profitability and sustainability can be compatible.
International cooperation on environmental issues, despite political challenges, continues advancing through scientific collaboration, technology sharing, and coordinated policy development that addresses global environmental challenges.
Community-led environmental initiatives worldwide demonstrate human creativity, resilience, and commitment to environmental protection, while developing locally appropriate solutions for diverse environmental challenges.
James, as we conclude today's discussion, what key messages would you like our listeners to remember about environmental challenges and their role in creating positive environmental change?
Environmental challenges are serious and urgent, but they are solvable through combination of individual action, community engagement, technological innovation, and policy change that addresses environmental issues comprehensively.
Every person can contribute meaningfully to environmental protection through daily choices, political participation, and lifestyle adaptations that collectively create significant environmental impact when adopted widely.
Environmental action often provides multiple benefits, including cost savings, health improvements, and community building that enhance quality of life while protecting environmental systems for future generations.
Hope for environmental progress comes from recognizing the tremendous human capacity for innovation, cooperation, and positive change when people understand challenges clearly and have opportunities for meaningful action.
Environmental protection requires sustained commitment and continuous learning, but the effort creates lasting benefits for both human societies and natural systems that support all life on Earth.
Starting environmental action today, regardless of previous engagement level, contributes to positive environmental momentum while building knowledge and habits that enable greater environmental impact over time.
Environmental challenges connect all people across geographic, cultural, and economic boundaries, creating opportunities for cooperation and shared purpose that transcend traditional divisions and conflicts.
Future generations depend on environmental action taken today, making environmental responsibility both a practical necessity and a moral obligation that defines our legacy for the planet we share.
Today's comprehensive exploration of environmental awareness and sustainable living has demonstrated the complexity of environmental challenges while highlighting the numerous opportunities for positive environmental action at individual, community, and societal levels.
Understanding environmental science enables informed decision-making about personal choices and political participation while building appreciation for the interconnected systems that sustain life on our planet.
Sustainable living practices provide practical pathways for reducing environmental impact while often improving quality of life through cost savings, health benefits, and community connections that enhance overall well-being.
Environmental challenges require coordinated action across all sectors of society, but individual contributions remain essential for creating the collective change necessary to address global environmental issues effectively.
The environmental vocabulary and concepts discussed today enable participation in environmental conversations while building a foundation for continued learning about environmental issues and solutions.
We encourage listeners to apply environmental knowledge through daily choices, community engagement, and political participation that creates positive environmental impact while inspiring others to join environmental protection efforts.
Thank you for joining us for this important discussion about environmental awareness and sustainable living. Continue learning about environmental issues while taking action that protects our shared planetary home.
This is Dr. Sarah Martinez and James Thompson from Artificial Fluency, reminding you that environmental protection is both a global responsibility and a personal opportunity to create positive change for present and future generations.